Jason, thank you so much for jumping on.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
So I'm here today with Jason Guckian. I'm Phil from Webisoft. We build custom software, and we started this podcast because we were curious by nature, and would love to learn more about the industries we serve. Jason, do you want to take a couple minutes, explain who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name's Jason Guckian. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Veritex Exploration. And what our business is raising funds for oil and gas exploration, primarily here in Texas. So in the oil and gas business, you typically have a geologist who has a really good idea of something that might be in the ground, right? Like oil and gas that exists somewhere that he's done extensive tests, looked at seismic, looked at different charts and all kinds of stuff that a geologist does, right? And they discover, hey man, I really think that there's some massive amounts of oil in this particular spot. And there's a multitude of ways that they try to decipher those kind of things. And so you'll have the geologist with the idea, and then you have an operator who is someone that physically drills the well, and then you will have land that needs to be acquired in some form of a lease, usually, and then you need money to be able to get down to the oil and extract it. And so my job is to provide the money aspect of it. So my company goes out to different investors, partners, whatever. And we've created this, what I call the round table partnership. And so a lot of people will buy a well and then they'll sell it off for for a profit, that kind of thing. What we do is a little bit different. I spent a lot of time, I was a professional athlete in 3 different sports, and I learned a lot about teamwork. And I had such a wise coach I'm so grateful for. His name was Marty Shaughnessy. And I was really frustrated my freshman year in college. And he comes to me and he says, Jason, just do your 1/11th of football. Just do your 1/11th. There's a load of guys on the field. If everybody does their 1/11th of football, then we win the game.
And you get one.
So just do your job. Just do your job. That's all you got to do. Don't worry about that guy's job or that guy. Just do your job. And so I take that same aspect and I apply it to oil and gas, and I utilize partners that are real industry partners, legitimate operators, legitimate geologists that are really truly in the industry. And it's an industry project where it's the industry who is trying to extract the oil out of a particular location. And I offer that opportunity to the layman, to somebody who's not in oil and gas. Normally, that kind of opportunity would only be offered to another oil and gas company as a non-operating partner.
Mhm.
And I take that same opportunity and I offer it to people, businessmen and other investors all across the country, and give them the same opportunity with us in investments that the oil and gas industry is investing in themselves. And it's a roundtable partnership, kind of like Camelot, the Knights of Camelot. Everybody's at the
Mhm.
round table. We're all equal partners going uh, into an endeavor to go look for oil and gas. And so I created the roundtable partnership, and that's what we do. So we raise money to be able to go out and drill oil and gas wells, primarily here in Texas.
Got it. And so you're saying, so your investors are traditionally not from oil and gas, they're from other industries, and essentially you give them access to deals that they would not have otherwise?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. And why that approach? Like, how did you get started?
So before I got into oil, so my family has been in oil and gas to some degree or another since the late 1800s.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, my great grandfather or great grandfather came from Ireland, and he didn't, because Irish people weren't really popular in the United States around this time. So from Ireland, he went to England, and changed his name. It used to be Mick Guckian, and he changed it to Guckian.
Hmm.
And then he came to the United States by way of Galveston, Texas, instead of going to New York. And so he ended up on the railroad anyway. So he helped build the railroad from Galveston all the way to El Paso. And the money that he made from that, he took it and he bought some land in South Texas and struck oil on it. And so ever since then, my family has been involved one degree or another in oil and gas. Now, I didn't get in oil and gas right away. I was an athlete. And so when I got out of college, I had a short professional football career that didn't last very long. I was more of a has-been than ever was. And and then I got into professional wrestling, and I wrestled for the NWA and ETW, and I traveled the country for about a year, doing shows all over the nation, and just really missed my family. I was recently married, and we had a child, and I wanted to be home for that. So I left wrestling and got back into football, played in the minor leagues for a few years, and then eventually ended up hanging up my cleats. But my experience and my expertise was in strength and conditioning and coaching. And so I owned fitness centers and gyms and built out franchises and things in the fitness industry, and was actually one of the first YouTubers ever, and did a lot of fitness work. And in 2008, when the economy crashed, a lot of people didn't have excess funds to be able to spend on, training.
Sure.
So there was a client of mine that said, "Hey, I'm working at this job, man, where it's an oil and gas man. I think you'd be really good at it." And so I went to the place that he worked and brought like a little resume, and they hired me, and I worked there, and that was my first job in oil and gas. I worked as a financier, um, doing kind of like what I do now. But for a company that sells investments more of a from a retail standpoint.
Hmm.
And then I left there to go work for another operator. That company leveraged a lot of their funds, and so they ended up going bankrupt. A lot of wells still producing today, but that company went bankrupt. And so I stayed out of oil and gas for a few years, building up different things and doing different stuff. And then came back to oil and gas and built this one company up to a massive company, and then decided to just do things on my own the way that I want to do it, and what I feel comfortable doing, and doing it that way. And so that's kind of how I got into it. It was all from sports. It all started with football,
I mean, that's
many
a
years
good
ago.
foundation, right? What did you see at the previous companies that you thought, I could do better? Or, like maybe some inefficiencies that you saw, or things that you would do differently? So you mentioned you wanted to do things your own way, right? Like, did you basically, get any frustration from maybe just a status quo at certain places and then wanted to change things up?
Yeah, I think that in business in general, what a lot of people in business are always trying to take care of themselves. And I think that um, I don't think that should be our purpose. I think that our purpose should be on the people that we're here to serve, right? And
Hmm.
so I think that other people selling a retail type product where they add a margin to something, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's capitalism, right? That's what made
Hmm.
America great. But when you do something like that, you're not necessarily putting the investor first. And when you do something like that, an investor might be paying too much for what he's buying. And in that scenario, you have to find a whole lot more oil than is necessary for there to be, uh, you know, real profits for everyone involved. And
Hmm.
so I thought that if we go and play our 111th, and I do my 111th, the operator does his 111th, the geologist does his 111th, and the investor does his 111th, and we all put in the same, we all play the game, whatever our spot in the football game is. If we all do 1 our 11th as a team, man, you can accomplish so much more as a team than you can as an individual, you know. And I've been lucky to have been part of some really championship teams, and when you have camaraderie between everybody working together for a common goal that's bigger than ourselves, you can just, you can really impact the world.
Hmm.
And that's what I wanted to do was, be part of the impact and help, other people make an impact with me together. And that's what drove me to doing things on my own.
Okay. Do you feel you've accomplished that so far?
I do. I do. I'm really proud of I'm really proud of the work that we do. And, I have an opportunity to meet some of the real salt of the earth. A lot of my clients and partners are just some of the best people you'd ever want to meet, and they're responsible for, um, really making America function. A lot of my clients are business owners that provide for their communities and take care of people and help you know make America really wonderful. And to be around people like that and do business with people like that, it's very fulfilling. Plus, I think that oil and gas is a so important. I really think that American energy independence is one of the most important things because I believe that it saves lives. I believe that if we had energy independence before, there'd be a lot less turmoil overseas and things of that nature. And so
I see what you mean.
I truly believe
Yeah.
that oil and gas is and being energy independent is so important. I really do. And I just want to make a major impact on American energy independence. And I think that we're doing that.
Okay. Very nice. How would you describe a typical day for you?
Typical day for me, like a day in the business or just a day in general?
Maybe a day in general. Sounds
All right.
interesting.
I wake up in the morning at 4:30,
Hmm.
and yeah, I wake up in the morning at 4:30, and then I spend about 30 minutes in prayer. And
Okay.
then I go to the gym and I train. And then when I come back, I do a lot of studying. I do a lot of studying. I think self-development is important. A lot of personal and professional evolution, I think, is key to
Hmm.
um, achieving your purpose in life.
Do you study things specifically for your business or like outside of your typical, like, what are you studying actually?
Well, I study all kinds of things. Like most of it is some kind of development that will that probably has like either a entrepreneurial or spiritual component to it.
Sure.
Um, I study a lot of on communication,
Hmm.
um, ways to communicate, how to get through to people. I do a lot of self development stuff. I do. Recently, I've been studying uh, a lot of marketing, particularly social media stuff,
Hmm.
and AI. I've been looking into a lot recently. Anyway, so I do that for a few hours, and then we'll have a morning meeting, kind of like a huddle where we get everybody, where all of us get aligned on what the projection is for today, like what do we want to accomplish today,
Hmm.
and then the rest of my day is spent either doing leadership or speaking with clients and potential clients. That's a typical day. Um, and then at the end of the day, I go home with my family and
Do it all over.
yeah,
It's your
you know,
second job, basically.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but then, the end of the day is with my kids and my wife and, you know, family stuff.
Hmm.
There's a lot of sports events that we go to, a lot of athletes in the family. And so, we might be at a football game or at a wrestling meet or, um, you know, it's just nonstop when you have kids. It's
Yeah.
nonstop. So, but then, I end up going to bed, um, I guess around 11 and then wake up at 4:30, do it all over again.
Okay, so you don't require that much sleep. You're one of those people.
Yeah, I really don't require a whole lot of sleep. I don't. Some
That's
people do,
that
right?
could be
Like
a blessing.
some people
Yeah.
do. Like I don't do like 5, 6 hours is enough for me. It's all I really need.
Yeah. I think for me, like below 7, I could do that for a day or two, and then like I have to reset and do like a 10 hour, I'm getting sleep that, um, but I wish I could do 5 hours, you could get more done.
Yeah, you get a lot more done. But if you do it,
Yeah.
like if you go less than that, right now you start becoming aimless, right? And you're like,
Mm.
you're not productive, So I will take like a 30-minute nap after I eat at lunch.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But it's not a full
At
nap.
the office?
Yeah, yeah, at the office.
Mm.
But it's not like a full nap. It's just kind of like,
It's a power nap.
yeah, it's like a power nap. I'll drink a coffee or something, and then I'll lay down and then just
I
shut
think
down.
I've read that if you have coffee before the power nap, like by the time the caffeine kicks in, like you kind of wake up and it's a good like reset essentially.
Yeah, yeah. So I do that. I do that
Yeah.
midway through the day.
Yeah, yeah. I tried listen, like whenever I can I do that, but some days it's just, back to back and I don't really have a window to take a nap, but my favorite nap place is on my deck at home in the summer. I have like a couch. I just sleep outside for like 10 minutes. It's literally like for me power I can't do 30 minutes. Like some people are, they and I assume that's your case. Like you could fall asleep and then wake up 30 minutes later. I'll fall asleep and then literally 10 minutes later I'll be awake. It's like I can't do more than that. It's a weird thing.
But yeah, but being outside, right? Like and feeling the sun on you, and where you like that bit of heat in the summer, is that what you're saying? It's a perfect
Yeah.
combination. It's a perfect
Yeah, yeah.
combination. It's
Yeah.
really
And then you
relaxing.
hear the birds and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
Oh man. No, I kind of yeah, and it's winter here. I'm in Canada by the way, so it's probably a lot colder than where
Oh,
you are in Texas.
oh yeah, a
Yeah.
lot colder. Yeah, it's the high today is yesterday the high was like 78 degrees. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's like
so
summer weather.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice.
And you're in I I think I read, is it San Antonio where
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are?
yeah. San Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah, remember the Alamo? Yeah, we're in San Antonio.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to go to Austin a lot. Austin, Texas, and then back in the days a lot of Dallas and Houston. But I haven't been there in years. I love Texas. So much good food. The weather though is getting out of hand. No,
Yeah, it's
do you
crazy.
feel it's getting a little too much?
Yeah, like I was saying yesterday it was 76, 78 degrees, and then the 2 days before that it was 37 degrees, and then
Yeah. Okay.
I
So it's
think
all yeah
tomorrow is 40 degrees, and then the next day again is like 82 degrees. Like it's weird. It's
yeah
weird.
stuff on the power grid, like you said.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Energy independence. It's not easy when the weather keeps going to extreme degrees. What do you see as the biggest inefficiency in the oil and gas industry? Perhaps outside of your own business, obviously, but like a place that you see there's like an obscene amount of waste, essentially, wasted time, wasted resource, wasted money.
I think that the sheer size of some of the bigger companies, I think, um, causes there to be a lot of just I think a lot of things can fall through the cracks, and I think that a lot of times things don't move as quickly as they need to.
Hmm.
You know, like when when there's a boom, and then when there's not a boom, right? And then there's like,
Yeah.
okay, well now we're going to sit on everything, and we're just going to wait. And now we're going to go because oil is at $100 a barrel, and then now it's at 50, so we're not going to do anything. Like I think that they're in when those things happen, right? There's so much urgency at some times, and there's not enough urgency at other times. And really, in both times, there's so much opportunity. I mean, there's never any less opportunity. And so more things can be done, and things can be done very effectively and efficiently if you take the time to do things that matter. I think that a lot of times in oil and gas, everybody does what's urgent instead of, regardless of whether it's important or unimportant, they do a lot of what's urgent. And
Hmm.
I think that when you do things that are important, they may not necessarily be urgent, but because they're important, you can get so much stuff done. Like for example, in oil and gas, um, when oil and gas falls to like $50 a barrel or something like that, um, that creates a lot of opportunity. And uh, a lot of companies will cut back and cut back and cut back and, furlough people and things of that nature. But like there's so much that can be done at that time, and you can drill for so much less money, you know,
Mm.
and you can create a lot more opportunity because there's not like it's not really hard to find oil and gas, right? You just got to time when you're going to go drill it. Does that make sense? And
Yep.
so, but I think that like because things get so big and so amped up so quickly when we start to be in a boom, that when it goes into I think that there needs to be a mean between extremes where there's a lot more effectiveness that can happen uh, all the way around. Um, and I think that there's some stuff where, and I know that there's things moving towards this direction, but like when you're looking at mineral rights, landmen, for example, if things were digitized, records and things were digitized from the courthouse and stuff like that, I think that would really make a big difference in the ability to execute quickly on
It's funny.
things.
I had a land person as a guest a couple episodes back, and we had the same discussion. Absolutely right. That's part of I guess modernization that needs to happen across the industry. So you think the industry as a whole is maybe too reactionary?
I don't know if I would say it's too reactionary. I just think that it tends to make things they create a sense of urgency in a boom, and there's like not a lot of sense. There's not much urgency in a bust, right? And I think
Hmm.
that there's just as much opportunity in a bust as there is in a boom. And I think that
Sure.
if the industry as a whole could find the mean between extremes, that I think that we could do a whole lot better, just collectively at realizing opportunities all year round or all century round as opposed to just during this time and that time or and whatever.
So a little more balance.
Yeah. I think that's one
Hmm.
thing. And I don't have the answers, right? Like I don't know. I'm just a humble peddler. Like I'm just a salesman, right? But I mean I think that um I think there's a lot that can be improved upon. And I think that things have just been done one way for so long that and maybe it's a matter of like, well, we have to just start moving when this happens, and we just like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not the CEO of BP. Like, I don't have that context. So maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but I do think that there's always room for improvement, and I do think that if we could utilize things a little bit better and be more proactive, I think that it would make a big difference.
Yeah, that makes, yeah, exactly. It's easy to criticize, right, when you're on the outside, but then sometimes you don't have all the context. That being said, like you said, there's typically always room for improvement. And it's, in oil and gas specifically, I think a recurring theme for our guests is that just the way it's always been done comes back a lot, right? Where it's just a lot of bad habits. Well, not bad habits, but old habits, and they
Sure.
die hard, and it's tough to move on. And it's all about kind of risk management where, well, we know we have to modernize, and we know we need to change things up a little bit, but what if, we lose 1% of efficiency by doing that? What innovation are you most excited about, actually, that you see coming up in oil and gas?
I wouldn't necessarily say innovation that I'm excited about. I'm more excited about mindset. So let me give you some context. So here in the United States, if you look at media over the last like decade, right? We went from like oil and gas gets a bad rap in a lot of the media because it's perceived as non as like anti-environmental, or it's looked
Hmm.
at as like oil and gas are the bad guys. They're the we're the man putting people down, or like whatever you want to call it, right? Not good for the environment, things of that nature. And this goes up and down, and depending on who's in what seat around whatever's like, it all changes. But but the oil and gas gets a lot of like bad rap in the media, in a lot of, especially environmental type stuff. And it's just none of it's true. Like, it's none of it's true. And what people don't realize, like, there's a monologue from Billy Bob Thornton in the show Landman that is so
I
relevant.
haven't seen that yet.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a big fan of Yellowstone, at least the first couple seasons that I watched. I haven't gotten to watch Landman yet.
Landman's a fantastic show. Billy
Okay.
Bob Thornton does an amazing job. And there's a monologue that he gives, and it's so relevant. Um, Oil and gas exists in every single possible thing that has ever been made. Is either
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
either made out of oil and gas, or it needed oil and gas to make it. Every
Hmm.
single product, and it doesn't matter what it is. And like, I was doing some statistics for a client about a year ago, and this was a woman that said, "Well, I just, I want to help the environment. I don't want to promote oil and gas because I want to, I drive an electric vehicle, and I don't want to promote like help oil." And my talk to her was like, okay, I can respect that, right? I can respect
Sure.
that. And I would say, okay, first of all, oil and gas companies are only called oil and gas companies because oil and gas is like the major energy source that we all use as worldwide. But they aren't
Hmm.
just oil and gas companies, they are energy companies.
Yeah.
And nobody is spending more on EV or alternative energy than oil and gas companies. Nobody is spending more on that, on learning about that, or developing that, than oil and gas companies. But people don't realize that, right? The other thing is, I was trying to explain to her, I said, okay, so like, let's say that we don't drill here in the United States, and we import from like Russia, for example. And I took out, I did the math, and I wish I could recall all these numbers, but I was like, to bring a tanker from this port to Houston, for example, is going to cost this much, and it's going to expend this much. Just bringing the tanker here is going to expend this much in emissions, right? And I said, that level of emissions would literally take over, man, it was something ridiculous. It was like several hundred thousand F-150s, all driving no less than 150,000 miles, um, to like, to equate the emissions from just having one tanker come over here.
Yeah. Completely
And then, like,
inefficient.
when you talk about, yeah, and then when you talk about the environment, what do you mean by environment? Do you mean your environment? Do you mean our environment? Do you mean the world environment? Because over there in Russia, for example, when they drill, do you think that they have as much of the environment in mind as we do here in the United States? They don't have the EPA. They don't have they don't have the same safeguards. So if we're talking about the environment in general, let's be realistic and let's talk about the environment. So if we're talking about the world, then doesn't it make more sense to drill here than it does over there? Right. And then it was like, okay, so now the whole thing about not, so I mean, there's a lot of details that I'm not saying that there aren't ramifications of drilling that could be better or be worse. I'm just saying that we're not the bad guys that people, portray us out to be in the media at times. And I think that
Almost like a comic book villain, right?
yeah, yeah, like a comic book film,
Yeah.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
And I think that mindset is starting to shift, and I think that people are starting to realize that we're really not the bad guy, that we're just like you, and we're just, we're just trying to help and do the best that we can with what we have. And, and I think that that mindset is starting to shift. We're no longer being looked at as a bad guy. So like I used to be a professional wrestler, and what was really great about professional wrestling was like you would have a bad guy, right? That would be like, oh, he's the, we call them heels in the business, and like this is the bad
Hmm.
guy, and then you'd have the baby face who was the good guy. And like there would be some bad guys that would get so popular that they would turn to the hero. They would be end up becoming a hero, and
That'd
they'd
be
be the
an
baby
old
face. Yeah,
arc. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So they'd go from being the bad guy into becoming the good guy, and then
yeah.
everybody would be fans of that person, right? And so I think that that's happening in oil and gas now. That oil and gas has been the heel for so long that now we're starting to get a lot of popularity. We're starting to get a lot of like where we're not necessarily the villain anymore, and starting to turn to where people are more accepting of the industry. And that's more so than innovation. That's what I'm really excited about, is because I think the stigma is going away, and that's fantastic.
So the mindset shift of the public mindset, very interesting. And again, like this echoes, sentiment from other guests as well. So I do agree with that. Feels like it's shifting a little bit. Were you the hero or the villain in your wrestling career?
I was both. It depended on where I was. It depended on what part
Depending
of
on
the
if you
country
had
I was
a
in.
beard or a mustache or not.
I started off my first match. I was the good guy because in wrestling, it's typically the bad guy that dictates the match. And so,
Okay.
um, whenever you first start off, you obviously let the guy who's more experienced, tell you what to do. Right? There's a lot of paying your dues in the industry, and so I started off as like the baby face, kind of the hero or whatever you want to call it, and then eventually became the heel. Um, what a wild life that was! That was man, a lot of fun, very difficult. Uh, very, very, very difficult to be on the road and travel and still work out and still eat right. I mean, this is before, YouTube existed. This is before Yetis existed, and you have to eat a certain way because you have to look a certain way, and um, you
What's
couldn't
a
keep
Yeti? Sorry.
like a Yeti cooler, right? Like a cooler that
Oh,
keeps things cold for a week, right? Like the ice won't melt for
sure.
a week, right? We didn't have that back then, so like, but I still had to diet. I still had to eat perfect, and so for like 13 or for like 16 weeks straight, I ate nothing but cans of tuna and oatmeal. I ate like 20 cans of tuna a day and like I don't know, 15 or 16 bowls of oatmeal. And that was my only food. Like that's what I ate every single day because it would keep in the van as we drove all around the country
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And so, but like, oh man, I hate tuna now. I won't eat it. I won't eat it.
you're, you're burned. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
PTSD whenever you see tuna.
Yeah. But like, I don't know what got us on that, but it's just that, oh yeah, the heel and the being the good guy or whatever the case may be.
Well, which role did you prefer? I guess was what my next question.
Man, I don't know, maybe I'm egotistical and I like the cheering. So
Mm.
it was, I liked being the good guy more than I liked being the bad guy. I
So
think it
the
was
people
more,
cheer the good guy more?
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
it? Okay.
I think it's more fun to be the bad guy because you have a lot more freedom and, you can really have people like you can really do some wonderful things that make the story impactful. But pride will be my downfall, right? Athletes, they're always prideful, but I love getting cheered on. I thought that was great, made me feel good, you know, and so I like being the good guy more than I like being the bad guy. But
Okay.
but it was fun, regardless. It was a good time.
Sounded like a lot of fun. If I YouTube your name, will I find some clips or will that before?
No, like this is before YouTube existed, right? So this is before people had cameras or phones with cameras, or like
Mm,
you would have had to have like some, you know, recording. thing with a
Yeah,
VHS
yeah,
tape to be able to,
yeah.
I might
Yeah.
have like, I think I have like a
Camera
few
crew.
matches way like back in the home vault or something, but I don't,
Hmm.
I like what I used to do is, there'd be an intermission during the show, and I would come out with like a Polaroid camera, and I would sell Polaroids
So
of me
Polaroid.
and the fan for like, $5 or something. Like, hey, do you want a Polaroid? $5, and that's how I did it. Because people didn't have cell phones with cameras and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Before the selfies.
yeah, before the selfies, before, I mean, YouTube wasn't a thing there. I mean, Google wasn't a thing. So, so you had to do it the hard way where you were like traveling every road, going town to town, trying to get your name out
Yeah.
there, all organic, right? Um, so you won't probably find me on, YouTube, Red. Just was before that thing was real.
Final question for you, Jason. What's your relationship with AI or LLMs? Do you use them or use AI and general with your business? And how do you see it affecting the industry?
I utilize AI more personally than I do for my business. Um,
Okay.
my business relies a lot on, personal relationships, and there's no substitute for being present and, and real and authentic and genuine in a relationship. There's no substitute for that. However, I do utilize a lot of AI for innovation, right?
Hmm.
I use a lot of it for, like, there can be some things where it's useful in marketing, right? Creating, or creating, like, helping with operational processing and processes and things of that nature, or, grouping things, or stuff like that, right? Where it like creates artwork and things of that nature for you. Um, and I'm sure there's a lot of ways to use AI within the industry. I'm sure that if you could, set up, um, AI and teach it how to read, um, you know, seismology and things of that nature, you could have a much better percentage as it relates to finding what you're looking for when you drill into the ground. I'm sure there's ways for that, and there's things that can do, and stuff like that. And I'm a big fan of AI. I really enjoy it, and but like I said, I used a lot of it more for like helping me think out loud, and giving me a voice back, and um,
Hmm.
using it for innovation and stuff. But in my industry, most of it is relationship stuff, and so I'm in my industry, in my niche. Most of it
Hmm.
is relationship stuff. So
Investor
it's not,
relations and so on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's not like, and I'm not going to have a robot call one of my clients for me. You know what I mean? Um,
Not yet.
not so. But I think that there's certainly room for, AI to be utilized. I mean, like, it just, but I mean, I could only, you know, fantasize about different ways to be able to utilize it in different parts of the industry. But I think that, if you were able to take AI and have it work side by side with the geologist, and geophysicist, and a petroleum engineer, and, they have AI assistants that help them, look through different things and create better prospects, and help with the location of where things need to be, things of that nature. I think it would be, you know, I think it would be monumentally, make a monumental impact. But for my particular niche, it's more relationship. It's more about people to people than it is AI.
Yeah, fair enough. And you're right that it can't really replicate that, at least not yet. Maybe a Jason agent in the future, Jason AI. We'll see. Jason, thank you so much for jumping onto this. This is great.
I appreciate it. Same to you.